Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. Over the past few days, I've been seeing a slowly increasing uproar over the early access title We Happy Few by Compulsion Games. The cause of all this commotion seems to be centered around the announcement on the 18th of this month that We Happy Few is now being published by Gearbox Games. That in and of itself would not be any great cause for concern. However, it would seem that, coupled with Compulsion Games' newfound AAA status with Gearbox backing, the game itself has received a laundry list of AAA industry sales manipulation, and a large number of gamers are not happy about what has been happening. The list of reasons is of a fairly decent length, so let's go over what's been happening step by step. The first thing to happen was the price of the early access title was increased in the US from $30 to a full AAA price of $60. This has been enough to cause an uproar, as many do not feel the game is worth anywhere near that price in its current state, regardless of the assertions of Compulsion Games that the scope of the game is increasing. And for those of you that aren't aware of what this game is, it was one that I actually had purchased myself way back when in order to possibly review. It looked extremely interesting with Bioshock-esque visuals and what sounded like a possibly extremely interesting idea for a story. However, this game turned out to be a little more than a bland survival game at its core, and being I personally cannot abide survival games, I opted not to review the game, as I felt it would be unfair to the project to review a style of game I knew I wouldn't like in an unfinished state. That said, the game was not what it was hyped up as at the 2016 E3 conference, but a great many people saw promise in the game, and its popularity has been fairly decent. My own personal thoughts were that the game was overhyped and underdelivered, but I will leave that up to the opinions of fans of the genre and not my own cynicism over survival titles in general. Now, when asked why the game was increased from $30 to $60 when the game's announced release date isn't until April of 2018, Compulsion Games stated that this was due to a requirement for price parity, which is a fairly common thing to see when dealing with AAA publishers. Of course, many people are arguing that even if the game needs to see a price parity between the different platforms, there's no reason to increase the price for the early access version of the game yet, but they are actually a little bit incorrect on that score, at least from a publisher's standpoint. You see, they do need price parity so the game can begin selling pre-orders for the console versions of the game, which they're already happily doing. Yes, what was a $30 indie title is now a full $60 AAA with pre-orders that also includes pre-order bonuses, although in all honesty, the pre-order bonuses are very slight. First, pre-ordering the game and existing early access backers receive the Jolly Brawly Parasol weapon, a unique in-game item. No idea what it does, but it's basically a psychedelic umbrella that you beat people with, so that's fun. Also, PlayStation consumers receive an exclusive PS4 theme, while Microsoft, GOG, Steam, and Humble Store customers will get access to the early access, or I suppose now we should just call it the alpha version of the game, which has already been out in early access for over a year. Also, to match the game's new AAA status, it simply wouldn't be complete without a $150 collector's set for the game that doesn't actually include a copy of the game itself. It would seem the game is sold separately, so to get the true collector's set, it will cost you a cool $210. And then, of course, no AAA game would be complete without a $20 season pass. Now, this season pass includes no disclosed content at this time, so consumers are expected to shell out money for content sight unseen and trust Gearbox and Compulsion Games not to completely screw them over. Now, I've tried to think of ways in which this could be beneficial to the consumer, and to be honest, the list is remarkably short. About the only thing I could think of is that the game world will get expanded upon. But when you factor in the mountain of anti-consumer AAA add-ons, there's no way whatsoever this deal could be thought of as good for anyone except the publisher and the developer. They get to bilk an even larger consumer base for far more money than they otherwise would have been able to, and all they had to do was surrender their ethics and morality to do so, if they had any to begin with. In fact, when looking through the list of tacked-on AAA shenanigans, the only things missing are microtransactions and gambling mechanics via loot crates. Throw those in and they would have checked off every AAA box on the list. Also, Compulsion Games are merging all discussion threads in the Steam forums into a single pinned thread, and as a result of this, the rumblings of censorship have already begun. It is worth noting, however, that at the time this video was recorded, I've received no reports of discussions being deleted or users being banned over expressing their outrage over the past few days. Compulsion Games seems to be playing their cards well in that regard and haven't done anything to overtly anger the community further. And out of those discussions, I've seen a lot more concern expressed over their choice of publishers more than anything else, due to Gearbox's now questionable history in recent years. Now, for those of you that don't recall, Gearbox Entertainment were responsible for the debacles that were Alien Colonial Marines and Duke Nukem, not to mention their attempted partnership with G2A over the Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition. Now, that partnership fell through fairly quickly, as the gaming community's uproar over the G2A partnership was immediate and fierce. Gearbox's ignorance, whether feigned or legitimate, caused Total Biscuit to get involved and helped Gearbox draft a list of demands that G2A would need to implement if the partnership were to move forward. The majority of those demands, which had Total Biscuit's hand all over them, were designed to put a stop to the most shady aspects of G2A's business model and provide a modicum of legitimate protection and security for developers and consumers alike. G2A naturally refused these demands, to no one's great surprise, and Gearbox was afforded the justification they needed to back out of the partnership. And Compulsion Games has been extremely quick to point out the fact that this is a new department at Gearbox in the hopes of quelling people's concerns over Gearbox's past. However, this is about as effective as one might think. You see, even if they are a new department, the same old Gearbox are the ones issuing the marching orders to that newly founded department, so the fact that it's new means quite literally nothing at all, and given the vast number of blatantly anti-consumer decisions being forced on their customers over the past week, one might gather how much water that argument actually holds. As such, I will be joining the already long list of content creators that will not be providing this game any positive publicity anytime soon, if ever. With the advent of Hellblade, the argument can be made that indie games don't need giant publishers in order to make a fantastic gaming experience with impressive graphics. Its very existence would serve as an example that this decision by Compulsion Games to go the AAA route with their monetization and marketing to be all the more greedy. That's my opinion at least, but don't take that as fact or gospel. Please do make up your own mind. And as always, please do let me know what you think down in the comments below. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.